Welcome back. Today I want to tell you about the base workout. The base workout is a 3-day program that we present to bass players. It's like a workshop, a very intensive workshop, and it's 3 days long. And we've been doing this bass workshops for almost 20 years now, right? I think this is the 19th year. It includes a number of students. We've had mostly bass players, but I know we've had a few guitarists. We've had drummers for sure. And I think maybe one time we even had a piano player involved. I teach this, and I always invite a guest or two. Often my good friend Rob Gourlay teaches with me. We've been teaching together for a lot of years. Sometimes I have guest artists. I've had a number of people come in who would teach for maybe a day or sometimes even the whole 3 days. Sometimes I've had people come in and just play concerts. But what it is it's a intensive program to help people learn how to practice. Now, most often I want to teach you how to learn how to play. Well, of course, they learn to play better, but particularly I like to teach, and I feel there's a need for teaching people how to practice. Over my many years of teaching at Berkeley College, I recognized that one of the biggest challenges for students was really learning what to do, how to practice. There's some fundamental principles which apply big time. One of them is Confucius say, "Man who is self-taught has fool for teacher." Well, I've always believed that. But at the same time, sometimes we take a lesson from a teacher and then we go home and we sort of just forget or don't know exactly what to do. Well, maybe that's bad teaching, but often it's just students, being so excited and anxious to do their thing that they sort of forget how to focus in their practicing. So that's what the base workout's been all about. Let me sort of start back at the beginning. Many years ago, 2001 it was. It might have been in 2000, but I participated in a couple of bass programs down at Berkeley College, and we had a lot of students. And I thought the biggest challenge there was that the program, the way it was laid out, it just wasn't focused enough. I thought it was a little too much, hey, let's just all hang and jam. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I was whining to my wife that, man, I can do it better and I know how to do it and it should be this way and that way. And she said, well, why don't you just do your own? Duh. So that year, or the year 2001, we had one bass workout. And again, it was exactly the same as, pretty much the same as all the rest. It was 2 days, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and a half a day Sunday. And at that time, I did have a drummer and a guitarist to accompany students. We would separate them to 2 separate rooms. I would teach and Rob would teach, and we'd separate them into another room, and they would have ensemble practice. And Everett Pendleton played guitar, taught, and Tom Airy played the drums, and they're just wonderful with the students. Students would go in there, and really they'd be going in there and having fun and jamming, but at the same time, the 2 instructors, Tom and Everett, they really knew how to coach them and help get them going in the right direction of what to think about when they were playing an ensemble with a group of students. Over the years, I've had numerous, many different guest instructors come in, and some of them would teach, some of them would play with the students, and some of them would just perform. And, I pretty much tailor each separate bass workout to what I think in my larger community of bassists and people who are, talking to me about coming to the bass workout, what I think would be beneficial to them. Well, it was a very big success. Yay! So in the year 2002, we had 2 bass workouts. In 2003, we had 3 bass workouts. And then in 2004, we exploded. And I think we did 7 that year. And then we sort of peaked about, I think it was 2011 or 13, one of those. I can't remember. But anyway, we did something like, I think it was 16 or 17 bass workouts that year. Not all of them in the same place. We started doing them all over the country, even some of them different parts of the world. We did 2 or 3 different bass workouts in Austria. We've done a number of bass workouts in Brazil. We did bass workouts in California for a couple of years. Done bass workouts down in Virginia. I'm trying to think if we've done them anyplace else. Anyway, I can't remember. But the point is we developed the program real well, got real good at knowing what we were doing and what was most beneficial, and it's been cool. Well, we're still doing them today. I think we've presented well over 75, I know we have, over 75 bass workouts now, and they're all similar but different. Obviously, the students, the people who attend are different. And when I say students, these are not just youngish people. No, this includes people of all ages. Let me explain that a little bit. Because I'm focusing on, and I let everybody know that we're focusing on learning how to practice, well, that involves people at all different levels of performance ability. We've had many professional musicians here wanting to hone their skills and up their game and really just learn how to focus. We've had somewhat, not really beginner students. I try to say to beginners, you need to take a year's worth of lessons from a teacher before you come to a group thing like this. But we've had, very elementary players. We've had a number of college level and high school level students. We have young professionals, and again, as I mentioned, adults, all different ages. Seriously, guys in their 50s, 60s, and 70 years old would come. And the really cool thing about it is it's a very warm, welcoming environment. Bass players are always cool. We have a good, we have a good rapport. We always see everybody tends to hang. And Rob Gourlay has been my right-hand man for all of those years. He's a wonderful musician. He's a very good friend of mine, but an outstanding person to work with students, teaching, coaching, evaluating, just being around the students. Rob Gourlay is a professional in every respect. So specifically, actually, I'm going to go another direction. So this year, let's talk about 2019 here. We've done, I believe, 4. We've sort of settled into a pattern the last few years. And we always do a early January base workout, kind of get the year started right. And that's a sort of a general, just a general participation in education one. It's non-styled specific and it's non-level. So we have students of all different levels, and we will touch on, study, and work on a cross-section of material. Everything from jazz walking bass to reading music to slap bass, tap bass, to ear training, some ensemble experience, some soloing. I mean, there's a lot of different topics we've covered over the years. And we've had, other than the January one, we have some very style specific. We always have one usually, and I think it's April or March, and that's typically for the last number of years has been Motown R&B. That seems to be a favorite of a lot of people. So who isn't? Jamerson, who doesn't love that stuff? And then we have a summer bass workout. For 7 years, we did what we called the Bass Fest, and that was just a great big bass workout at a college with 60 and 80 people. But that's sort of morphed into the summer bass workout, and again, that's not style specific. And then in October, for the last dozen years or so, we've had the jazz bass workout. And that's pretty intense. I always have a real strict requirement if you got to learn these songs and you have to have transcribed these solos and these bass lines, and we get together and work on them and play them as a group. You can't imagine, just believe the power of a group ensemble playing unison. Oh, man, that's just great training. And not to leave out, we've often had in December, not every year, but a number of them, a double bass workout. And, of course, that's taxing physically, playing your double bass 8-10 hours a day for 3 days straight, 2.5 days. Wow, that's tough. But that's pretty much the same schedule that'll happen in 2020. We just finished the jazz bass workout, obviously in October, and that was unbelievably successful. You wouldn't believe, again, the power and the sort of just benefit of playing with 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 guys. I mean, with 10 guys is all right too, but I'm talking about a smaller group here with double basses. And, playing a PC walking bass line or a Christian McBride bass line. This year, Jonathan taught us a really cool Christian McBride bass line. You just get to see how other guys are doing it. And here's the big benefit I tell everyone at all the bass workouts. If you've never been to one, here's the real benefit. Of course, you're going to learn some new notes. You're going to learn some new songs. You're going to see some new techniques. You're going to learn how to practice. But the number one thing is you're going to gain some perspective on yourself, really. Meaning you're going to see players better than you, players not as good as you, and you're going to start to feel and think of, man, I need to do this. Oh, man, I should have been doing that. Or, oh, my goodness, I've improved a lot doing this. With all of my private students, we use the bass workouts as a little benchmark to measure our progress. We set goals and work towards them. every time. And if you'll notice how the base workouts are laid out during the year, they're basically 60 and 90 days apart. Guess what? So you can just practice that long, and then I'd got all that, and we'd shift directions. Of course, get ready for the next base workout. That's a really valuable part, I feel, of teaching, and that is not doing the same thing over and over for years, or at the same time not being scattered. No, it's being focused for 90 days. So that's the biggest benefit of the perspective you gain on yourself. And it's really cool how it changes. It's still just as viable, but it changes for the guys who've been to 6 and 8 base workouts, or maybe even 20 of the base workouts. So we've got guys who've done that. We've got guys who've been to every one of them, which like I said, I think we've presented, no, not every one, because some of them are different parts of the world, but we've presented over, something like over 75. We have guys that have been to probably 40 base workouts. Oh, you betcha. Lots of people have been to more than 20. We have a little picture, group picture of all the guys, and they're hanging on the walls in the other room, and it's fun to look at them. My wife completed a Herculean task a few years ago. She put everybody's name on a little picture and the dates of the workout, so you can date it and see it all. Everybody just loves looking at them going, oh, I remember this guy. And yeah, there's some famous bass players on those pictures there. I can't remember exactly who. But I'm sure you can look it up. Just go to baseworkout.com, and you'll see pictures and all sorts of stuff of past base workouts. And you'll see a program of the base workouts coming up in 2020, and you're welcome to participate. So gaining perspective on yourself is really what it's all about. Keeping pace with our own progress, our own improvement, and of course our own challenges too. That's not a big part of it. That is what the base workout's all about. Maybe I'll tell you just a little bit about what happens. What do we do at the daily activity? Well, let me think about here in January, what's going to come up. We'll have anywhere between 5 and probably 10 guys. Every once in a while, we'll have a 4-person base workout, and we've had many base workouts with over 12 guys. And while that's fun, it's crowded. I prefer that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 group of players. Matter of fact, it got so busy, I don't know, a number of years ago that we started having 2 jazz bass workouts at like 1 week apart, one for double bass and one for electric bass. But in January, we'll just have one, and let's say we've got 6 or 8 guys. So we'll start with everybody in the room all at once, and we'll all do some warm-up stuff. We'll play Cycle of Force, and we'll play arpeggios, work on our triads, basically just group practice. And again, you can't imagine how valuable it is to hear yourself, to feel, to play with a group of other players, your same instrument, and everybody's playing unison. It's very telling, and I'm not talking about just for me, I mean for each individual player. It can show your weaknesses or your strengths real quick. And we usually do about 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off, maybe 45, 15. What is it? That'd be about 6 or 7 sessions a day. And of course, we have lunch in the middle, and my wife cooks great food, and sometimes we order out really good stuff. But so we'll do that first 40-minute session on really just technique, on physical technique on the instrument, whether it's double bass or electric bass. Take a break, and then we'll come back, and I'll have some reading ready, set up, some reading books. We'll pull out the reading, and everybody's always, oh my God, I can't read. That's not true. Some of the guys can read well, but most musicians these days, guitarists and bassists, boy, reading just is not part of their daily activity. So it tends to be a weaker area. And we may read, and we won't read for 40 minutes. That's too much. That's too intense. So we might read for just 20 minutes straight, and then I might just switch over to ear training, to where now we're not using our eyes, but we're listening, and we're playing some call and response along with tracks that I've prepared for it. And that's great fun. Talk about revealing. Woo! Some guys who maybe, can't read very well at all, their ears are incredible. They can play it. Other guys, the opposite. They can read and they go, my God, I just can't figure out all those notes when I'm trying, when I'm doing a little call and response thing. So that's typical. Then we'll take another break, and then maybe our third session, which would be what? 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock session. That might be jazz. You betcha. And we'll start with some walking bass line. We'll start with some real fundamental, just working on chord tones and roots and getting the sound, playing a good groove, getting the time. And again, playing together. That's powerful, man. Getting 6 guys playing a walking bass line, all exactly perfect. And the synergy that happens when we're all playing the same thing and we get it really, sounding good and feeling good. My gosh, there's such an experience. That's what we're talking about. Because it's real hard these days if you're not careful as a person trying to get better as a musician. Sometimes, you're playing situations where it's just, everything's just not accurate. Everything's just not right. And me being the taskmaster that I am, I make sure we do it till it's just perfect. And if we have some, say, a person or two people in the room that just aren't up at the level of the other, 6 guys, well, I've got other rooms. We just split up and take them in there, and I'll send Rob in there, or he'll stay here, and I'll go in there with him, and I'll work on them, and I'll work on the things that they need specifically to get it up to that level. So that's a walking baseline. Then probably too, we'll split that 40 minutes into jazz walking baseline. Then the last 20 minutes we'll probably do a solo, and I'll teach them by ear, typically a solo over a blues, real simple blues phrases, and we'll all play it together. And then we'll do some of the funnest things. We'll do a little circle where we all play it together. And for the second chorus, every person, as we go around the room, they get their own 12 bars to play. And that is unbelievably revealing. What I mean by that is some guys just play off like crazy, and other guys going, man, I don't know what to do. They're stuck. Some people will take off doing their own thing, and they go, oh, my God, I should have stayed a little closer to that thing you taught us. Yeah, it's just hearing the comparisons, the highs and the lows, the sort of structure and lack of structure, and and the different things. What happens is cool is somebody will play their solo and they'll kind of get messed up, and we'll all come back in with that unison one that I taught everybody, and it's like, oh, thank goodness I'm home safe. Here's home base, yeah. And then, of course, we'll get to the next person, and all of a sudden he'll play something. Everybody be going, oh, my God, that's incredible. And sometimes I'll stop it right there and have him teach it to us, or not. But that's typical. Then we go to lunch, of course. If in one of the bass workouts I've had drums and or guitar here, every time we have a session, a 40-minute session, I'll have part of the guys in the other room working with the drummer and the guitar player. So we have little ensembles back and forth, group bass, ensemble stuff. But we tend not to stop one and do the other. We tend to have them go up concurrently. And sometimes we don't have drums or bass, or guitar or keyboard. Excuse me. Sometimes I'll send Rob or maybe Jim Lambie off in the other room with 3 bass players and say, hey, teach them this song. Sure. Jim Lambie has been a big part of our bass workouts in the last few years. A first-rate professional and a great player and a great instructor at the same time. What a pleasure, too, or not, of course it's a pleasure, but what a value for the players at the bass workout to sit beside people at different levels. Let's say a guy who's only been playing 2 or 3 years, just barely getting into jazz, and he's sitting beside Rob Gourlay, who's an outstanding jazz player. Or someone, who's totally into tapping, and they're sitting beside Charles Bertu, who's an outstanding tapping bass player. Or there's a bunch of guys. Or my son Grant. He comes in sometimes as a guest, and Grant can do anything. Or in reading, I'll have Jim teach him some reading. Jim is an outstanding reader. So anyway, here we are back at lunch. We all have fun, hang out at lunch, tell stories. Guys always asking questions, and I'm trying to answer, or somebody is. And sometimes we go outside if the sun's nice, and guys play a little bit of basketball in the front on the driveway out there, or just sit down and relax. Typically, what 2 or 3 guys are is they run around trying to ask everybody, hey, can I try your bass? Can I try your bass? Because you can imagine with that many players all in one spot, everybody's got a different instrument. How cool it is to be getting a feel and listen to other people's instruments. So after lunch, we just jump back into it again, and we'll have another session, typically in the afternoon. Now we might do slap bass. And there's always a person or two who, during our private lessons, they've been transcribing something great, so we'll have little concerts. We'll practice some slap fundamental stuff out of a slap bass workout book along with a play-along track, and then I might have Sunder play a little Marcus Miller or Mikey B. Mikey's got some great slap stuff happening. And of course, again, there might be a person who's shown up for the first time and they don't know anything about slap. So that's no problem. I'll have Rob take them off in the other room and they'll work for 20, 30 minutes on just getting the fundamental. So then when they come back into the group session, they're up to speed. They can do it with us. So it's real cool. So we might do a slap session, might do that for 40 minutes. Who knows? Probably will. I'm just thinking hypothetically here, with some group stuff and then maybe 2 different guys performing stuff. We've done cool things where we've had, I'm not joking, 6 and 8 guys on the stage all performing a Marcus Miller song unison perfectly. Something like Power from Marcus or Detroit. We've got videos of them online. You can go and see all that stuff online if you want to. It's real cool. And then break time again. Then it comes along, what would that be? 2 o'clock. Come along 2 o'clock session. And maybe at the 2 o'clock session, Rob and I will play them a little 10, 15-minute concert. And everybody's like, oh, that's what it's supposed to sound like, huh? Little demonstration. And then we'll jump into, might get into some little back to technique. I'll take them back to technique and we'll start working on some 2-octave stuff. You betcha. I apologize here. My brain's, I'm not sure all the different topics I mentioned. There's a lot of topics to choose from, and I try to limit them. It's not a smorgasbord of here's a ton of stuff. No, I try to be real specific on let's work on this so that you can walk away with something you can actually play and know how to practice it. Again, that's a big one. I'm constantly talking about here's how you practice it. Here's how you practice it. And I just simply learned that a good part of teaching is doing in the lesson part what you want the student to do when they go home. So that's cool. Break time, and we're on to 3 o'clock, something like that. And we might come in and do a jazz soloing session here. I mentioned that earlier, but a jazz soloing session here. But now, just not a teaching thing, but everybody just do your own thing. And then I'll do a little masterclass type thing, and I'll critique each one and say, do this, don't do that. This was better than that. This was, and we'll try different stuff. Take a break, come back to the next one. And we might go to, I don't know. I've already forgotten. By the way, I always have a list here of the material I want to cover. I've learned for this, as I've gotten older for sure, that I've got to have a list of what we're going to do. Otherwise, I forget a ton of stuff. But the point is I just keep us busy with each session, focused on some material that the students, find valuable, that any professional bassist should be able to do, would like to do. And I teach a lot about here's how you go home and get better at it. And the camaraderie is just wonderful. And it's a great learning environment. The students love it. We all love it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've left out here. Who knows? I'm sure I left a ton out. Give me just a sec here and I'll go through it in my mind. Okay, my mind's blank. It's empty. That's it. But no, the bass workout is just a wonderful experience for the people. I assure you, you can ask anybody about it, and it's been great for them. So you can check it out online, as I mentioned, bassworkout.com. And just get fired up about the bass community that you can be a part of and learn from, okay? Cool. Have a nice day.